Hi, it is Memorial Day 2023, and I wanted to hop on here and offer my solutions to you guys for this world. So, this is a solution for the US um, to implement, and the laws they're going to need to be updated as necessary, the right legal processes. First, everyone's got to get on board with a plan. And here's the plan that I want everyone to get on board with. And I'm going to say why it's good for people on the left, why it's good for people on the right, and why everyone should just agree to this plan and say maybe it's not everything that I hoped for right away, but it is a lot of what I'm hoping for, and it gives us a path towards getting the rest of what I hope for. So, some of the big issues that people um, argue about are the role of government. Um, and so, my proposition is that we should transition uh, to a really different kind of society where the um, governments that are in place at the federal, state, local level um, begin to undertake a process of transitioning their services to the private sector and selling their assets with the proceeds um, from those sales being distributed amongst the populations that were formerly within their jurisdiction. So, in place of what we currently have as government to do certain roles that the government has previously been assigned, what I propose is that a charitably funded security force be put into place, and that essentially we transition, our current setup into a safety structure where what this place there's going to be a handful of rules that I'm going to propose that this thing is going to enforce, and it's going to be funded entirely by voluntary contributions. Okay, so every bit of land in the US and its territories that we're going to be talking about right now, um, it's owned by someone. It's either owned by an individual, a company, or a government. And so my proposal initially um, is that the current ownership that's owned by private owners will continue in the hands of those private owners, um, and that government owned assets will be liquidated as part of that general liquidation that I mentioned. Okay. Um, I know there's been some talk from the left about, reparations. So maybe there are some people who feel as though the land as it's currently assigned isn't just, that there, or the property that is assigned, that there should be some kind of um, adjustment. Well, maybe that's something that can be part of a negotiation that needs to ultimately take place. And there's going to be several such things where I'm going to lay out, this is my initial proposal to get us started. If we want to adjust from here, you want to adjust this, well, we want to adjust this. What can everyone realistically agree to? So this security force, one object that it will have will be to prevent slavery. So any landowner has to allow anyone on their land to leave that land if they want to leave that land. Another thing is every landowner will get to decide who is welcome on that land. And so they will have full and utter say in who that is. If they want to discriminate as an individual, they will have freedom to discriminate in any way that is, whether it be by a factor like race, or whether it be by a factor like vaccine status. Different people have different values, and it will be nice for people who have similar values if they can start owning land next to each other so that they can build communities where everyone in the community abides by certain rules that maybe aren't for everyone in society, but make a lot of sense for that community. Not everybody's for everybody. And I believe that different landowners having the freedom to set the rules that they want in their space is optimal. Now, there's another controversial issue. In fact, there's a couple of other controversial issues. One is the age of consent, and that consent means we can talk about consent for drinking alcohol, consent for buying certain products, consent to have a sexual relationship, consent to have some kind of transgender surgery. There are moral differences in society on those issues, and frankly, some people in this society aren't going to be okay if other people are breaking some of those things, at least in relation to underage sex. And so my proposal is that donors to the security force get to vote on the age of consent. And maybe it's, we got to have a discussion about what are these things, and we should have a reasonable discussion. And this is a discussion that's a lot bigger than me. It's a lot bigger than my initial proposals. But, what are the things that we should be discussing? Should there be different ages for different things? But what we're going to do is donors to the security force are going to vote on that age. And so the more you donate, the more votes you're going to get, because we need to inspire people to donate to this thing because it's voluntarily funded. Well, guess what? The more you donate, if this is an issue you care about, uh, you're going to have the power to move that age the direction you want to move that. And I think the people, when there are differences in morality, um, that's a good way to solve that. Because people are going to view this differently, and different communities, different people have different norms, and a Mormon person might say, well, I think the age should be 100 so no one ever drinks alcohol. And another community might say, well, we feed our kids communion wine uh, at 8 years old, and the, they're going to vote differently, and that's not a bridge that we need to cross to create a peaceful society. And it's an area where maybe you won't get your ideal, but you're going to get what the median of people willing to donate to that security force at that time in human history feel is the right age. And, if people don't like what it is, you can talk about why, there can be a discussion. People can advocate the way they want to advocate, and there will be a feature in place where the people have the power um, to have that moral compass reflect society's overall moral compass. Um, Now, you know, you know, nuclear fuel, I believe, should be monitored because I don't want a maniac um, taking destructive action that can have a severe negative effect on humanity. And it's powerful stuff, man. And, I used to work in the nuclear power Navy, and I learned a bit about nuclear power. And, I believe that the U.S. Navy has the greatest nuclear power record that any nuclear operator has, and that they can teach the rest of the world what they need to know um, about. And some of that might be classified stuff. Maybe that can be considered an asset of the government that we talk about in this thing. That can be something that can be liquidated. Because that we okay. So another thing, people are gonna vote on, donors are going to vote because donors to this security force should be the ones who have the power to make these big decisions. But on who is going to be actually, sorry, I got confused. Yeah, who's going to run like the security force? They'll vote on that. Uh, the um, the government is going to need a liquidator, someone who's got a good business savvy, who can really think about the different implications of how to liquidate this to get the best proceeds for society at the time that society is going to need. And by society, I mean the the former residents of that jurisdiction. Um, when is the need? What's the market going to do? Because you don't want to dump all the land on the market right up front, because land's going to go up in price over time, and so you're going to have this big vote that's still going to need to happen, where you're going to have one guy who's going to be like, no, we should not sell this land yet because I expect it's going to appreciate, and I want to hold that in, the public trust. The other party's going to say, no, we want to do it this way. And this is going to get really complex. It's going to be a big process. So you can still kind of have your whole political freaking fight, your whole fun, you like doing your whole election shit. People can still do that as far as this liquidation, because this is the thing that could go on for years, for decades. You might want to hold some of that land, because in a free society, land's going to become really valuable over time as we become more productive, and there's just more competition for that land. Land's a finite asset, and so as population grows, it's people are going to be fighting over it at some point. But at the beginning, it's going to be real cheap, because we're going to be at the beginning. We've just had an economy collapse, and now we're regrowing it. So, another thing the government's got to do, so this plan, the U.S. dollar, they gotta say it's no more. It's not worth anything anymore, and they gotta say all the debts payable in dollars, they're officially worthless, and that's a big thing. That's a big discussion. It's covered in my book. I'm just hitting on a few bits here, but I don't know. I think my solutions really give, um, we talk about freedom, and you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, man. Um, these are the things that a lot of people on the left want there to be freedom in. Um, and, you know, there's also farming, agriculture, manufacturing, mining. There's also industry. And people on the right want freedom in industry, um, outside of those industries. Well, these are really just different industries, and there ought to be freedom in both. Um, Again, people are participating in things you don't like, doing things you don't like. Don't go in those areas. You want to, broadcast your information, tell them what you got to tell them. Follow your path, you'll have freedom. And freedom means different things for different people, man. But it's the freaking way, dude. So that's what my book's about, and I'll post a link below.